Hi, this is Josh Budin for hold'emanager.com. In this video, I will analyse the fold big blind to button steal HUD statistic. This stat is defined as the percentage of the time a player folds from the big blind when the button raises an unopened pot pre-flop. Fold to button steal is a very useful stat as you can calibrate your button range depending on the blind's fold to steal tendencies. A very high big blind fold to button steal would be anything over 60%, and against these players you can literally open 100% of hands profitably as they'll fold far too often and you'll win the pot without contest. A very low fold to steal would be anything under 15%, and against these players you should tighten your button opening range. This range will not really be a steal anymore as they're defending so wide and it's impossible really to steal, so you'll be opening for value, although I would suggest still opening wide for value as you do have position on all later streets. Make sure you use the HM3 note-taking feature on different opponents and whether they adjust their blind defending range to different button sizes. Some players defend the same range to min raises and 3 times button opens, so you want to just min raise against them because your steal has to work a lower percentage of the time to be profitable. Also take notes on how good each player is post-flop. If they make a lot of mistakes post-flop, and even if they're defending a wide range, you can still open your button range against them because you're going to make profitable decisions post-flop to compensate for the wider opening range. You should look at the fold big blind to button steal percentage as well for the player in the small blind. I just use the one stat, the fold big blind to button steal, because I don't have enough room in my HUD for all of the stats in a 6-max game. But you get a good idea of their fold small blind to steal from their big blind steal percentage, because in general players are a lot tighter in the small blind than big blind pre-flop as they're not getting the same pot odds as in the big blind and they're going to be out of position three-way a lot of the time. So for example, if the small blind has a 50% fold big blind to steal, you can assume they will fold more than 50% of the time from the small blind. As always, make a note on opponents who call the same range out of the small and big blind, as this will be an exception to the rule and will affect whether you decide to steal when that player is in the small blind. So if we have a look at the specific example here, 50 cent a dollar zoom on PokerStars, very profitable when you can identify players that are folding far too much from the blinds. So it's folded to us on the button with a total junk hand, bottom 5% hand, totally unplayable. But we look at the fold big blind to button steal percentage, which is on the third line there. Villain 2 in the big blind, it's 84%, which is an absurdly high number. He's just overfolding far too much and just leaving all his money on the table from the big blind, and he will probably be a losing player as a result. And then we have a look at the small blind, 55%, so we can assume it's a little bit higher than that from the small blind, since that 55% number is his big blind fold to steal percentage. So this is a great opportunity to steal against two players that are far too tight, and we're going to win the pot uncontested a large percentage of the time. So what I would suggest to begin with, especially against very tight players, is just to open a smaller raise size to get a better price on your steal. So here we just opened a 220 at 50 cents a dollar with a total junk hand that we would ordinarily fold pre-flop, and we do get the folds. So it's very crucial in Zoom games not to just fast fold automatically when you get dealt these junk hands, because you're missing profitable opportunities like this one where we just win the pot uncontested in a rate-free pot.